the leprosy. What about you and I? I don't know what circumstances we are going through. I don't know what disease you are suffering. I don't know what circumstances, maybe problem or whatever. But if Jesus can heal the leprosy, what about you and I? One of the most terrible and horrible disease in time of Jesus Christ's ministry was the leprosy. The leprosy was a horrible disease. When a person is suffering such a disease, was cast out of the society, out of family, and was considered as unclean. And even the air he or she breathed was polluted. That's why he was to be cast out, to withdraw himself or herself out of the society family in order to prevent the contamination of his family and society. It was considered as a curse. It was considered as a sin. It was considered that the disease was like things that people consider as a curse. And the people who suffered the leprosy were to be cast out of society, to move to the mountain, in the high place, so that they could live there and waiting to die. But in time of Jesus Christ's ministry, when Jesus was in Capernaum along the sea healing the disease, there are one leper he heard about Jesus who healed the disease. And he had a faith in his heart, right? He had a faith. And he decided to move toward where Jesus was preaching or healing disease, around the sea. Jesus was crowded, and he stood afar, still approaching. And he had faith, even though he was a curse and cast out of the society. He was considered but he had faith and moved toward what Jesus is. He still had faith. And Jesus was crowded. And as soon as he saw as a little space for that can touch to Jesus' garment, he moved just immediately and touched Jesus, humbled and bowed him down himself, and said to Jesus Christ, "Can you make me clean?" Jesus, he didn't ask him, what about faith or have faith? He just, you are healed. He touched him, and he strengthened all his body, became clean like baby's skin. What Jesus has said to him, don't ever tell anyone. Why Jesus silenced him not to tell anyone? Why? There are some object Jesus tell him. Number one is he did not want people such as enemies to know that such as a miracle, because he didn't want the enemy to limit his work. The second, that he didn't know that man to tell anyone until he reached the high priest, because the high priest was able to confirm whether he's healed, fully complete healed, and so that he can regain the join to the society again. The third things Jesus didn't want people to know, it is because there was so many diseases around the mountain, such as leprosy suffering. Because Jesus' object was to preach the gospel, and even though they are so besides they are healing the disease, but he didn't want to make this sufferer to know, in order to calm him as in number, so that they can limit his work of the gospel. What circumstances are passing through. It may happen that you were cast out of the society, out of the group. You think you are desperate. If Jesus can heal the leprosy, what about you? Why can't you come toward him? Why can't you have faith? Why can't you come approach him? Because the same miracle performed in Capernaum, the leprous man, they still perform even today. Have faith and go forward to Jesus Christ. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we know that we sometimes